terms of kids, when it comes to teenagers and kids, is really about looking at three C's. And these three C's are and that's why I think when it comes to that pursuit of positivity, topics in our curriculum, right? How can we impart this along with the history, geography, science, maths of really some of these elements which are so important for life? And I truly believe that if this kind of an curriculum can be built in, we will really make the next generation ready for life along with their education. So this is what I truly believe, Vidyaji.
Thanks, Avinash. Yes, Avinash.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to this. I mean, amazing forum, so much of experience here. And I really have a little bit of a different outlook in terms of that pursuit of positivity when it comes to imparting that to students, to teachers, and also to the parents. Now, the way we have been born, brought up, gone into school, the education system versus what we now have for the new generation, I think there is a little bit of difference in how the new generation is coming up in terms of the access to the technology, in terms of how they really have the entire globe as one small village accessible to them in terms of the information. Now, how do we really bring that into their perspective is something that schools really would want to explore, discover, and rediscover over and over again. And I think what I work with in terms of kids, when it comes to teenagers and kids, is really about looking at three C's. And these three C's are communication, connection, and creativity. So I truly believe that communication is a very important element of what the school can impart in terms of creating that positivity. Because if a student can communicate well, a teacher can communicate well, a parent can communicate well, they can connect well. And what I mean by communication is we, most of the times, Vidyaji, focus on external communication. How many of us really do focus on the intrinsic, internal communication that we have with ourselves? So that's the primary thing. How do we communicate with ourselves? Because if we are able to communicate internally with ourselves, we can easily communicate with the external part. And if you are able to communicate, you are able to connect well. Connect well with whom? Not only with the external people that we focus on, but connect within with ourselves. How can we impart this knowledge of communicating, of connecting within to the kids? Because if they are able to communicate, if they are able to connect, they can create a lot many things. They can create opportunities. They can create possibilities. They can really open up in terms of how these things happen. And that's why I think when it comes to that pursuit of positivity, if we start with communication, if we teach them connection, if we teach them creativity, which are no longer topics in our curriculum, right? How can we impart this along with the history, geography, science, maths of really some of these elements which are so important for life? And I truly believe that if this kind of an curriculum can be built in, we will really make the next generation ready for life along with their education. So this is what I truly believe, Vidyaji.
Thanks, Avinash. Avinash, maybe you are specifically Qatar, say if you can.
Absolutely. So here there are 14 Indian schools, Vidyaji, and I have covered all the 14 Indian schools, teaching the teachers in terms of initiatives for really making a difference. Now, what happens in especially in the Gulf countries is that getting females, for example, right, on individual sponsorship becomes a challenge. So what happens is usually those who are here on their husband's sponsorship and they were looking out for teaching jobs and they have some degree of qualifications could be one of the reasons why they would go ahead and look at an option for teaching, for example. right? And so very specifically to have specialized teachers only who have been trained in a particular skill set to get them on sometimes becomes a challenge for these schools. And this is where these external entities, when we go in and we really try to make a difference, there were many initiatives that we have introduced. I remember the programs that we started was cultivating a culture of positivity. What is the role of the schools to cultivate a culture of positivity in kids? That was one program. There was another program which we did was in terms of empowering hearts and mind, for example. How do we really empower your hearts first and then the minds? Because we are always focused on your brain, right? How do I encourage kids to learn? But how do I first empower your heart, which empowers your brain or your mind? There was an amazing program which I remember, from classroom to homes, spreading positivity across the communities. Right now, these kind of programs go beyond their curriculum, because for me, basically, in local schools here, positivity need not be a mood. Positivity needs to be a curriculum. It's just not be a mood, it needs to be into your curriculum. How can I bring in positivity as a part of that? And there were multiple initiatives. Very quickly, some of the initiatives that we looked at is introducing a growth mindset in kids. I did sessions. I do leadership sessions with multiple senior leaderships, and so recently did one with where I trained 1,800 senior leadership of an international airline company, and I trained them on growth mindset. You know what happened? They said that if this were things which were taught in school, we would have completely become a different individual today. Right? Growth mindset was never taught as a part of your this thing. We focus purely on the curriculum. Now, how can we teach students the power of a growth mindset? How can we improve their efforts, their resilience, and help them learn to deal with setbacks? These are the life skills which happen in the later life, not in their student life, but this will remain with them for probably their lifetime. As Dr. Neeta was saying, one little note was really taken throughout a lifetime of 40 years for a student. So imagine if we start implementing these as a part of curriculum, how the kids can really change the way when they grow up. Gratitude journal, for example, right? How can we encourage writing this daily gratitude reflections for kids? Now, of course, if this becomes a practice for them in school, they are practiced to do homework. You go home and make sure that you do homework. Tomorrow, if you don't do homework, there will be consequences. How can we ensure writing gratitude journals, that tomorrow, if we need to have at least 3 gratitude things that you are thankful for example. How can we create kindness campaigns, as Dr. Sunanda was saying, right? How can we create those campaigns for kindness? That random act of kindness need not be random. How can we structure it? Something to think about, right? How can it be part that, okay, every month, every week, once we will be doing these campaigns for kindness? How many of these schools really focus on the teachers' well-being? How can we create courses, the sessions only for teachers' well-being? We are all focused on kids, of course, but if teachers are, as I was saying earlier, if teachers are happy, they will lead to happier kids. How can we make focus on the teacher's well-being first and then on the kids' well-being? So you go to the source and make that source happy. The source of the river, if it starts giving sweet water, everybody down the river will start using sweet water. How can we really change that kind of a culture is what I really think. Character education is one of the things that we introduce, right? How do we really infuse character building lessons in kids? How do we give examples? How do you take examples? How do you create lessons or experiments where you introduce character building in kids? How can we empower student leadership? We always focus today that how can I become that leader in my corporate life? Why not introduce student leadership? Why not start from the beginning, right? How can you become empower yourself as a leader? How do you see yourself as a leader? And that is a simple way. How can you celebrate the efforts? You do not only reward the achievements, but celebrate the efforts. We always look at first, second, third, right? You give medals first, second, third, for example. How can school celebrate all those who have put in the efforts? Let's celebrate your efforts as well. Of course, first, second, third deserve what they deserve, but the rest of them who were just near there, they have put everything, but somehow there will be first, second, third, isn't it? I mean, everybody cannot be first, but let us celebrate the efforts of creating that. Just bringing in your efforts, let's celebrate that, right? Especially using positive language, for example. Now, I am a neuro-linguistic programming coach. I very much focus. So neuro-linguistic program is neurology, language, and behaviors. Neuro-linguistic and programming. How can we use language to change behaviors? And I have seen a research which was done in the US hospitals, where they stopped using aggressive language in their signages. The signages that you see in hospitals, they stopped using aggressive language in their communication. They have seen around 33% faster recovery in their patients just by changing the language in the signage. What I mean by that is, for example, they don't use bullet points in their PowerPoints. They don't use bullet points because bullets are an aggressive language. They don't have targets for their people. They don't use targets. They have goals, because target again is associated with aggressive language. Very simple things like this, but it can change the way people perceive. So some of these things that really have made a difference to schools by introducing this, and if we can do this as a part of the curriculum, positivity, as I say, is no longer a mood. It is a curriculum, in my opinion.
So, Avinash, if being a trainer, if I want to ask you, right, the three action items, what you can think of for imparting positivity to parents, right?
So more before being a trainer, I have been, and when you say the number three, I'm a father of three kids.
Crickets.
And yes, exactly. So being a parent and the journey of being that parent for a 14-year, a 12-year, and a 6-year-old has taken me through the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride, as you say, right? And of course, as rightly said by Sunanda Madam, being a role model, and I do coach a lot of parents, and they come to me first to start with, you know what, we have teenager kids. How can you coach them? I said, before coaching them, let's have one session with you just to understand, really, is it they who need coaching, or is it really the parents? Right? And most of the times, it ends up that the parents require more coaching than the kids, because kids are malleable, they are flexible, they are adaptable. Many of the parents are not. And that's why it's very important to let your children learn by example rather than telling things. Do it yourself and show them that this is how I set, as rightly said by Sunanda Madam, become that role model. The second part is have effective communication. How can you really have an open communication? Many parents really do not speak to the kids openly. They are in that frame, within that box. I am the father, you are the son. I am the father, you are the daughter. Let's speak within that box, right? So how can you really open that channels when you listen to their concerns? How many parents listen? People, parents may hear their kids. How many times do they listen? And there is a difference between hearing versus listening. But how many times have you really consistently shown discipline as a parent when you discipline your kids? How many times you tell, when you get up in the morning, fold your, clean your bed and fold your bed mattress and all that? How many times do you yourself do it before telling the kids? Right? Because they will see that, oh, dad, you did not, but you are asking me to do it. How many times have you really brought in that praise and encouragement when things don't go right? He may not be, as I said, for the teachers, there may not be first, second, third, but you have put in the efforts. I really appreciate. I clap, I acknowledge your efforts that you have put in. That's exactly where you encourage them to be independent, right? As Dr. Neeta was saying, that help them make choices. Don't give them your choices. Let them have their choices at their expense. They might fail sometimes, and that's completely okay. But give them the independence of bringing that choice to the table. And One thing that is really important in these days, as again Dr. Neeta was saying, that there were grandparents but not parents in the school. Give that quality time. That quality time will never come again once they grow up. So now when you can impart that quality time, make sure that you take off time, even if it means there is $1 million deal to be put on hold. But this time it is worth more than that $10 million, because this will not come back again. So you might think, no, that is important, but this, if you really, really focus, this is more important for you. Help them to really help them understand how to manage stress, right? These are the skills which we really don't focus on as parents, because we think this is outsourced to the school, to the teachers. They will teach everything. I am here to make sure that the homework is done as a parent, right? Because all this is outsourced, it seems. School will take care of it, teachers will take care of it. No, this is your primary responsibility. I i have 3 kids. Two of them are doing homeschooling just exactly for this reason, because I truly believe that the curriculum that was meant to be with the new generation probably has not evolved with the schools yet. The way the kids are learning outside, they are not yet, it is still in that process of getting evolved. So this is what I think, Vidyaji.
Wonderful, and it's also maybe will it's interesting for me to learn that two of your kids are doing homeschooling. I'll
Yes,
talk to you about that later.
of course.
Okay, and moving forward, if there are any, specific thoughts, definitely we'd like to listen from you. Or if we can take one or two questions from the people who have connected, that would be great. Maybe we'll maybe check a few questions. If we have, we'll take it up, and after that, we'll call it as a session. But before that, if there are any thoughts as a conclusive thought, which can be shorter, maybe about a minute for all of us, if we can share, that would be great. Just before concluding, yeah, quick set of thoughts to share.
I may just start with a quick thought, because it flows in the line with what I was saying, that for the parents, for the schools, and for the teachers, and for the students, the next generation economy is a talent based economy. It's based on passion. It's, of course, education is important, but also equally focus on the passion of your kids. Focus on the talents of your kids, of what they really, really, again, there is a difference between skill sets and talent. Talent is something, you have seen a 2-year old, start singing on YouTube, and how amazingly he sings or she sings. Right now, how has he has not she has not gone through any lessons, no skill sets, no skills developed, but this is a talent inborn. And now the entire life, people, the parents and the kids and the school will help them focus, no, study first, don't focus on your talent, study first. So the next generation economy is talent based economy. Let your kids flourish within the talent that they bring to the table. Let them follow their passion, and believe me, they will help create a better world, not only for you as a parent, but for your neighbors, for the community, and for the entire world as a whole. So please focus on the talents and the passion. So what we do is, with neuro linguistic programming, when it comes to setting the mindset, changing the mindset, there are multiple tools and techniques which are available. So if again, whether there are parents or teachers or principals, for examples, if they can just look at the usage of how, for example, neuro linguistic programming can help change this outlook, right? It's all about the mindset. It's all about the mindset when it comes to really changing behaviors. And if before we change kids or children's behavior, the first needs to be changed in the parents' behavior, the teacher's behavior, in terms of understanding the kids a little bit more better. And there are tools, there are techniques which are available. Again, probably with the limitation of time, we might not be able to discuss enough tools, but there are enough tools available in terms of, as Dr. Neeta was saying, emotional intelligence, for example. There is an emotional quotient assessment that could be done to understand what is the emotional quotient of the kids or the parents or the teachers, right? And these tools are really, really beneficial to make a difference to the kids. in terms of their upbringing.